verses 23 and 24. Matthew 23, verses 23 and 24. This is Jesus speaking, and he says, woe, which means warning or shame, beware. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. Read it one more time. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. Amen. I'll preach today from the topic Stewardship Month. There's giving and there's giving. Right? There's giving. And then there's giving. And January, Stewardship Month, it's a great time. It's a time of new beginnings. It's a time to celebrate the new year. And we're still celebrating the new year. I saw some people today I hadn't seen, and I'm still saying Happy New Year. You know, it's the first time you see them. Say Happy New Year. I wonder how long that keeps going. Now, if I see somebody for the first time in May. But we're still at the new year now. It's at this season. And as a matter of fact, we're at a point right now where we're between the new year and Lent, right? So now the new year, everybody's talking about what they're going to give up, what they're going to do, what they're going to get right. And then at Lent, everybody's talking about the same thing, how they're going to get ourselves together, what we're going to give up, what we're going to do. Anybody made New Year's resolutions? Nobody in here made New Year's resolutions. One 13-year-old boy. Okay, we have a few. Different resolutions that people make. Some people say, I want to give up cursing. Is that good? Some people say, I want to give up red meat. That's how you feel led of God, then couldn't hurt to give up red meat for sure. And then some people do it a little differently. I was talking to one person. I hope they were joking. I said, what's your New Year's resolution? They said, this year for 2013, I'm giving up exercise. I'm just releasing it. No more. Wouldn't it be nice if it was that easy? But that's kind of missing the point. And that's missing the point of the New Year's resolution. And that's missing the point even of what David said in 1 Chronicles 21. He said, I can't give a sacrifice to God if it doesn't cost me anything. It's not a sacrifice. There's giving. Now, yeah, you say you're giving up exercise. Yeah, you're giving. But there's giving, and then there's giving. And that attitude, I'm pretty sure this person is joking about the exercise, but the attitude that they expressed is a very similar attitude to the one that some of the Pharisees and Sadducees had here in Matthew 23. And if you look at the whole chapter, Jesus is is really giving them a hard time. He's really running them down. Matter of fact, Jesus, I guess he didn't curse much, but he did. He called the Pharisees and Sadducees pretty much everything but a child of God here. If you look at Matthew chapter 23, he says, y'all hypocrites. He called hypocrites about 7-8 times. Just a bit. So y'all hypocrites, y'all some snakes, y'all got blood on your hands, you act one way and you do something else. You fronting like you're religious, but you're really not. You trying to act holy. You want people to think that you're holy. You come dressed up in your flowing gowns and you come traipsing through the marketplace because you want everybody to say, oh, there goes the rabbi. And then when it's time to pray, you start praying extra loud like this. You know, they got the fingers extended like this. You know, you got the extended fingers. When you really want somebody to think you're praying. That's what they did. They had these things called phylacteries, and it talks about it in Matthew 23. What they would do is take a scripture, they would write it down, the Lord is my light and my salvation, tear it off, put it in the box, tie the box around their head. Now they're talking about they got the word on their mouth. That's what they did, brother. That's a phylactery. Walking through the marketplace, they love being the rabbi. They love being the go-to guy. They love getting the big piece of chicken. Part of it was the way that they dressed. And yes, make no mistake, people do treat you differently based on how you dress. I don't know if you noticed that before. But it's just the truth. I mean, I've experienced that many times here. Now, you know, when I'm dressed like this, I walk up to somebody and they say, oh, you must be the pastor. Hey, how you doing? But during the week, I was here in some jeans and a t-shirt, and I introduced myself. I said, Seth Pickens, I'm the pastor here. And they looked at me in my jeans and they said, you're the pastor of all of this church? You're just a baby. But I'm glad that, yes, man judges by outward appearance, but I'm glad that God judges by the heart. And so Jesus was really letting them have it. And it's tough to let people have it because even if you're right, if they tell you the right thing in the wrong way, sometimes we have trouble receiving it. But Jesus said, well, I don't know any other way to tell you except to tell you. You snakes, you hypocrites. That's what you are. I can't lie. And he says here in the verses that we looked at, he says, now you give a tithe, you pay 1/10 of your income. That's fine. You pay 1/10 of your spices, your mint, your dill, and your cumin. Now let me tell you a little bit about those. Your mint, we know what that is, right? Has a wonderful fragrance to it. You know, it's good for the digestion, it's good for the breath. You know, mint. And then it says you give 1/10 of your dill, or your anise. And dill is also very aromatic. It's also a pain reliever. And it says you give 1/10 of your cumin. Now let me tell you what cumin does. Cumin is something that they use for cooking. And how can I put this? If you know how fish lasts about 3 days in the refrigerator, right? And I don't know, I might be the only one that you didn't get to it in 3 days, and then on day 4, now you're ready to cook it. I mean, you don't want to throw your fish away, so you give it a little sniff test and say, I don't know. That's what cumin's for. You put a little cumin in there. Cumin is your friend in a time like that. So these spices, what Jesus is saying, yeah, you're tithing all these fragrant spices, and when you bring them to the table, when you bring them to the altar, it smells great, and everyone thinks you're wonderful. But when I get up close, despite all the dill and the mint and the cumin, when I get real close, something don't smell right with you. Because you can give a tithe, you can give 1/10 of your income all day long, but you need to know that what you put in the plate is not going to save our soul. It's just not. A lot of us do what we want to do and then feel like, yeah, but I'm tithing them. But I'm treating people bad, but I'm tithing them. I'm going to give the tithe and a little bit more on top of that just to make up for what I did. But it doesn't work that way. Because it's not like a restaurant where you can tip and you come in and you say, now sometimes you tip up front if you really want good treatment. If you really want some good treatment at a restaurant, you walk in and when they say, hi, my name is whatever and I'm your waitress today, you put $20 in that hand and say, glad to meet you. And you see if that doesn't get you a couple extra lemons in your wallet. But what we got to understand, that's the way it is with humans. But with God, I don't care how much of your money you give or how little of it you give, God is not swayed by what you got. What you can do, what you think you can do. Because what you think you can do, God gave to you to do. And if you don't do what God said to do, what you think you can do, you won't even be able to do. So God is not impressed with a tithe, per se. But now watch it. Because that doesn't mean don't give neither. I'm not saying that. All right? Not saying that. But we got to watch it. Didn't I just say, some people can't take criticism well. That's the truth. And that's something that I'm even working on myself. Other day, my wife, I had to be downtown LA. I had to be there at 7:30 in the morning. So I had to wake up early. So, we got to get the kids up and ready. So I was up by 5:40 and I said, hey, just stay in bed. I'm going to get Zola dressed. Because her daycare opened at 7, I have her there at 7, and then I hit the road. So you just stay in bed, don't even worry about it. She said, thanks, yeah, I love you so much. So I did. I got up, got her dressed, got her to school. She was there on time. Then picked her up that evening, and when she came in the house, my wife said, you let her wear that? School? She said, those are pajamas. I said, I wanted her to be comfortable. That's what it was.
They were cute.
How come they make it look, it doesn't look like pajamas? Who said, and then I got the fact, who said it was pajamas? That she said that kind of bothered me because I got up at 5:40 in the morning and I tried to do my best and then it wasn't bad enough. She said, those are pajamas and those pants, they're pajamas too and they're too small anyway. And then she really kept going on and then she said, then she called her mom and she said, guess what Seth did? Now you know when people start talking like that, part of you, the human part of you said, well, you know what, see if I ever get her dressed again. If you want her to wear certain things, you wake yourself up at 5:40 and you get her dressed your dang self. I said that to myself. In my spirit. And I would argue that Jesus is giving us some hard criticism sometimes. Jesus is telling us how to do things that we think we know how to do. And when we hear it, we don't always like it, but if she's right, she's right. So Jesus said, don't stop tithing. And he said it now. All right, for the record, Jesus said, don't stop tithing. And he didn't get anything of what went in the the temple. He wasn't affiliated with the temple. So it wasn't like he was telling them to give to fatten his own pockets. He didn't see it. But he said, don't stop tithing if that's what your religion calls for. If that's what your faith community says tithe. Matter of fact, you better tithe if that's what the religious community says to do. But in all of your tithing, don't neglect, don't disregard, don't overlook, don't be indifferent to other things that are more important. Yeah. Now, yes, tithe because you want the heat on when it's cold, don't you? Yes, tithe because you want those toilets to flush when you need it to flush. If it don't flush, you're going to really need some mint and some cumin. But don't neglect the more important aspect of the faith. Don't, in all of your giving, and I'm so glad that you're generous, but in your generosity, don't neglect the spiritual worship. Don't neglect the commitment to the community, but in all the preaching that's going on and all the focusing on money, all the worrying about money, all the begging for money, all the preaching about money, all the talking about money, please know that you don't live by bread alone. And as important as giving is financially, there are still some more important matters that we got to attend to as a family. And namely, Jesus says, and he says, it's justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Because what you hate to do is what he calls it, strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. What does he mean by that? Strain out a gnat, swallow a camel. You know what a gnat is, right? Those little bugs, right? They just kind of get on your nerves. Sometimes I remember as a kid riding my bike down the street and you'll see a bunch of them just flying in a circle, right? You know, and they don't really bother my bike, they're just flying around. One time I rolled my bike right through those, got one out my nose. As far as I know, I think it's still up there. Little gnats, little bugs bugging me. Nothing I can't stand more than a little bug, than a little mosquito in your ear, right? I hate that. I would rather be bit by a mosquito than have it. Now, the Pharisees, a gnat was not kosher to eat, of course, and so they were very meticulous about straining gnats out of their food and out of their drinks. And for a real reason, because as you know, they get into fermented fruit, they lay eggs in there, there's bacteria there, and it makes people sick. So you got to strain out the gnats. But what Jesus says, when you're straining out a gnat, be careful that in straining out the gnat, you don't swallow a camel. What do I mean by that? What that means is that, think about it like this. I knew a couple, and they were getting married, so intent on the wedding day, so busy planning the wedding day. Flowers had to be just so. Party favors had to be just so. Food had to be just so. Family and who was sitting where had to be just so. So much so they were so concerned with getting those gnats straight that they didn't do any counseling and they only stayed married for 7 months. They swallowed a camel. You know what a gnat is, a little bit about camels. As you can imagine, swallowing a camel is pretty bad. Do you know about camels? Have you ever seen a camel in person? Disgusting creatures. They have this big gland that comes out of their mouth, all this spit. And that's how the men show off to the women. This huge thing about a foot long just comes out of their mouth. And that's how they show off when they're ready to make it. Mouth, inside of the mouth is like leather because they're chewing on thorns. You know, they can go so long without water, but then when it's time to drink water, they can drink 50 gallons of water in 3 minutes. They got that fatty hump on their back, and the hump could be 7 feet tall. And the way they hold water so well to the point that when their urine comes out, it comes out like thick syrup on the ground. Meat tastes nasty. I never ate a camel, I ate some llama. I was in South America, it's a related animal, and it's the worst thing I ever ate. It tastes terrible. So I would rather on second thought, the more I think about it, I'll swallow a gnat or two. Before I swallow a camel. So that's the message that Jesus is giving us. In straining out the gnats, be sure that you don't swallow a camel. Yeah, you might not like hearing kids screaming all the time. And to strain out the gnats, he said, just be quiet. But you don't know by letting them talk what they can teach you. The gnat buzzing in your ear, that's that insurance salesman who won't leave you alone. You like, leave me alone! And I told you I'm not interested, and you hang up the phone. Got rid of that gnat, that's cool. But then Big Mama died, and now it ain't gonna be a funeral until you find $14,000. Yeah, you strained out the gnat, but now you're facing a camel. You see that check engine light on your car. You're like, I'm tired of looking at this light. You reach back there, unplug the check engine light. You strained out the gnat, but you're getting ready to eat a camel. Now I don't want no prostate exam. I ain't getting no prostate exam. That's a gnat. But when they come and take the whole prostate, that's a camel. Now I don't want to hear about this social issue. I don't want to hear about it. Leave it alone. You can strain that gnat if you want to, but the camel is coming. I go to church every Sunday. Watch the Pharisees though. Because they went every Sabbath too. And Jesus would say, I'm glad you go to church every Sunday. Please don't stop going to church every Sunday. But all the time that us spend in church, I want to know when is some of the church going to get into us. Give what God has given you. If God has been good to you, you got to be good to someone else. And now since God has been faithful to me, I've got to be faithful with you. And if God has been consistent with me, then I got to be consistent with you. If God has been kind to me, I got to be kind to you. Since God has been compassionate to us, we got to be compassionate with other people. If God has been loving to you, you got to be loving to someone else. If God has been just with you, you got to be just with someone else. If God has been fair to you, you got to be fair to someone else. If God has looked beyond your faults and saw your need, then you got to do that for someone else. You got to give as God has given you, because there's giving, but then there's giving. Better be careful what it says. He says it to the Pharisees. Be careful who you shut out of the kingdom. Because when you shut the doors of the kingdom on someone else, you just might be shutting yourself out as well. Now, it's not, have not received salvation because of what you deserve, or because we are so smart, or because we are so holy. Not because we're good Baptists, but God has loved us as a loving Father only by God's grace and mercy. The song says, your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living, not because I make my own heart. I'm living this moment because of you, God. I want to thank you. Praise you too. It's God's grace, God's mercy. Brought each and every one of us. We're opening the doors of the church right now. I want to invite whosoever will. This is a time, this is an opportunity. Join this family of faith to unite yourself with Christ. Ask them to stand. The doors of the church are open right now. If there's one who wants to join the church, come on. Give your life to Christ. This is your time. Just come right down. Have a seat right here. Raise your hand. God bless you, brother. God bless you.